Hi, hello everybody. So as promised, this is going to be my first installation of Herstory. Thank you so much to all the people that commented and said, yes, we would like to hear you ramble on about a different woman from history every week for 10-15 minutes. Really love that you guys are on board, and I hope that you enjoy the coming episodes. To begin with, I am not going to talk about any particular woman from history. That will be, so my first proper episode will be the next one. I'm just going to talk about who I am, where I come from, where my interests lie, and all that good stuff, because all of you know me really well. But if this turns into the YouTube sensation that I hope it will be, people won't know me. And so I thought I'd give a little bit of context as to who am I to be talking about this kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm Emma. Hi. I have been working in the heritage sector for 5, 6, 7 years, something like that. I'm currently working for the National Trust. I'm at Ickworth and I look after the objects in the house, basically. So I'm in charge of like the day-to-day routine conservation. There's a team of us, me and 4 others. So that's what we do. We make sure that the collection is looked after and cared for you guys to enjoy when you visit. Before that, I was the curator at Denny Abbey and the Farmland Museum for 4 years, and I looked after their collection there as well. So the collection was my sole responsibility. And I was in charge of the collection, exhibitions, displays, conservation, all that kind of thing. And before that, I did a year's internship at the Museum of East Anglian Life in Stowmarket. So thank you so much to Lisa and all the team at Stowmarket for introducing me to the heritage sector and starting me off on a career that I love. I couldn't imagine doing anything else. So thank you so much for that. So that's where I come from. 5, 6, whatever years of working in the heritage sector. I'm also a qualified historian. I have a bachelor's degree in history and I'm currently doing a master's degree in local history as well, which is really difficult when you're working. I wouldn't recommend anybody do that. But yeah, so that's keeping me busy. And so growing up, I wasn't really interested in history all that much. I had a childminder while I was growing up. If anybody knows me, Nita and Jim are very dear to me. They're like my grandparents, basically. And Jim would sit me on his knee and he would tell me all these stories about mummies and Jack the Ripper and pirates and all that kind of stuff. And it was Horrible Histories before Horrible Histories was a thing, and I was like, oh no, tell me more, no don't, oh I don't, yeah. So Jim kind of got me started on stuff like that, and I went through school and I found history very interesting, but it wasn't what I wanted to do when I grew up. I wanted to be an actress, and I used to go to theatre school on the weekends, and I used to sing, and I still do sing, and dance, and all that good stuff. And I wanted to be in West End theatre. That's what I wanted to do. When I was 15, I went down with glandular fever, which caused post-viral fatigue, which turned into chronic fatigue, which turned into ME, and now I have fibromyalgia. But it was around the time of I just finished my AS levels when I got really sick, and I kind of resigned myself to the fact that I probably wasn't going to have the physical endurance to be an actress. So I was at this difficult stage where I didn't know what I was going to do, and it was around the time that I started learning about the Tudors properly in my first year at A-level. Obviously I'd learned about Henry VIII before. I knew divorced, beheaded, died and all that good stuff, but it was only when I started doing my A-level that I thought this guy's actually pretty interesting and complex, and he's not as simple as the fat old horrible tyrant that we think of him as. So I started kind of learning more about him and found him really fascinating. And then in my second year of A-level, I was introduced to his daughter, Elizabeth I, and I completely fell in love with this woman. So if you haven't guessed, my first episode will be on my idol, Elizabeth I. I learned so much about this woman, and I learnt a lot of it by picking up this book, Elizabeth the Queen by Alison Weir. As you can see, the print is teeny tiny, but I devoured the whole thing and I could not get enough after reading this book. I watched everything there was to watch, I read everything there was to read, and I just completely became a fan of this woman. She was not perfect, she was flawed, she was quite a jealous creature, she didn't always make the right decisions, but I genuinely believe she was the best monarch this country, England, has ever had. And I think you will do a difficult job to top that. I'm not going to go on about her too much, that's for next week, but thank you so much, Queen Elizabeth I, for getting me into history, and thank you to Alison Weir. She's a very, very lovely lady. I met her at BBC History Festival and I took along like a rubble sack, basically, like, you know, those big IKEA blue bags full of books, and she sat there and very patiently signed them for me, and I said thank you so much, because this book really changed my life. I honestly would not be a historian if I hadn't picked up this book. So thank you to you two lovely ladies. It was also, I went off to uni and I did my bachelor's in history, and it was around that time that I started getting piercings and tattoos, and everybody started saying to me, you'll never become a historian with all that metal in your face, you'll never become a historian with tattoos. And it kind of started to get to me a little bit, and I kind of started to believe it a little bit. And then this lady came along, Susanna Lipscomb, and I saw her on TV, and she was just the most wonderful presenter. This lady came along. There we are. I've met her several times. She's a beautiful person inside and out. She's really kind, she's really patient, and we've had some wonderful chats about the rise of the female historian and how we're seeing so many female historians on TV nowadays, like Susie and Lucy Worsley, Janina Ramirez, Mary Beard, and it's really, really nice to have history taught to women by women, because even when I was doing my A-levels, the authorities on the subject were David Starkey and Simon Sharma and people of that ilk. So we've had some great conversations about the rise of the female historian, and that would be, you know, if I could have a dream job, it would be that, like TV historian. And now, of course, sorry, Susie. Now, of course, we have other female historians like Janina Ramirez, who's like a goth. So that's very, very cool that we get to live our interests regardless of how we look. And, you know, it doesn't make us any less capable or any less knowledgeable or intelligent. So yeah, good things are on the horizon. Anyway, so yes, I'm predominantly a Tudor historian. I have a Tudor rose tattooed on my hip with Semper Idem, which is Elizabeth I's motto, and it roughly translates to always or ever faithful, or that kind of thing. So it's very fitting, because I will always be loyal and ever faithful to Elizabeth I and the Tudors. So there we go. I'm also interested in Victorian history, massively interested in Victorian history. I actually wrote my dissertation on the Victorian underbelly of London and the impact that the Jack the Ripper murders had as a catalyst for Victorian social reform. It's an absolutely thrilling dissertation. If you've ever liked to read it, you only have to ask. Yeah, so I'm very interested in Victorian history, and particularly like the Victorian underworld, and so there's a lot of women that I'll be drawing on from that period of history as well. I'm also really into Italian history, randomly, because I'm a quarter Italian. My mum's mum, my nonna, was from Caserta in Italy, and so that got me down the road in university. I went in through a literature route with Dante's Inferno, and I started getting into Italian Renaissance history, and that got me onto the Borgias and the Medicis and the Orsinis. So yeah, I'm really interested in people like the Caterina Sforzas of this world and the Lucrezia Borgias of this world. So they'll be coming up in episodes as well. And another thing I'm interested in is I love pirates. I'm really interested in pirates. So obviously I'll be doing episodes on you know, Marianne Bonny and things like that. But Mrs. Chang, the infamous Chinese pirate. But I've also got some other really cool examples that I've pulled from this book called Heroines and Harlots, Women at Sea in the Great Age of Sail. David Cordingley is a great author if you like your pirate history. So but I'm also interested in women from every period of history. I just really like hearing stories about kick-ass women who, they might be great women, they might be ordinary women, but who have made a difference somehow, or have lived their truth, or spread a message, or it can be anything. I'm just so into, sorry about the burps, I'm setting the tone for my series. So interested in women's history of any kind. So on my quite substantial bookshelf here, this is my history bookshelf, I have people like Marie Antoinette, I have people like Anne Neville, I have Queen Isabella, I have Josephine, Napoleon's Josephine, I have Cleopatra, I have Mary Queen of Scots, I have I said Marie Antoinette, didn't I? Who else do I have? Yes, Caterina Sforza's on there. Yeah, so I'm just really interested, and I would love to know, please comment below, your favourite women from history. You know, is it Matilda? Is it Isabella of Castile? Is it, like me, is it Elizabeth I? And I'm not going to shy away from controversial topics either, so I will talk about prominent women like Margaret Thatcher, and we will talk about kind of the pros and cons there, and I will try and weigh things up as analytically as I can from a historian's point of view. I will try and look at the good and the bad, and on a similar vein, I'm happy to talk about people like Mata Hari in that way. So yeah, please do comment. Let me know who you would like me to cover. I've got a list of about 6 pages of A4 long of women that I want to cover. But if you can think of anybody that would make a difference and other people would like to hear about, please do tell me. And I'm open to not necessarily like women, so there are people like Marsha P. Johnson on my list as well. I'll be talking about with Stonewall. So yes, we want people to identify as women, but they don't necessarily have to be born a woman. So yeah, let me know your Joan of Arcs, let me know your Joan of Arcs, your Mrs. Changs, your Lucrezia Borgias, your Elizabeth I. Let me know in the comments below who you would like me to cover, and I will see you next week for the first episode of Herstory with Elizabeth I. Thank you.